I've been hearing things. There is something going on in this house.
Try to relax. And so you rest.
As the movie begins, Julie Rivers moves into an old, yet elegant lakeside house in upstate New York, and shortly after arriving, she meets her husband, Daniel Rivers. A worker gives her a bracelet that was found in the drain, assuming it to be hers. Julie decides to keep the bracelet, even though it's not hers. The Rivers enter the bedroom, where they find their cat Lou wandering around. Daniel is exhausted from managing the house renovation, but both he and Julie are happy in their marriage. And Julie is 7 months pregnant and due to give birth in 2 months. That night, Julie is fixing the bracelet she received earlier in the day, and she puts it on her wrist. She then picks up a box she brought with her but suddenly hears a child whispering and puts it down. Now when she comes out to check, she finds Lo hissing at a tarp-covered doorway, and then she leaves there in fear. Confused, Julie moves towards that doorway, and when she tries to listen carefully, the child whispers that she is looking for her. But suddenly, she gets startled by Daniel. He then brings her into what will be the baby's room, and excitedly shows her the crib and baby monitor in the corner, which can record video and is connected to a microphone. Later on that night, the couple attends an academia banquet, hosted by Dean Whittier and his wife. After a while, when Dean's wife asks her where'd they end up settling, Julie tells her that they bought a house by the lake. Dean's wife says she knew a man who lived on that property many years ago, but unfortunately, his wife became quite ill. She then asks if it's her first baby, but Daniel cuts in with a yes before Julie can answer. Returning home, Julie appears upset and questions Daniel about why he told the woman it was their first child. In their argument, it is revealed that several years earlier, they were expecting a son who was tragically stillborn. Distressed, Julie heads upstairs, but is startled by the sight of a little boy leading her to trip and suffer a nasty fall. Julie is rushed to the hospital in an unconscious state, where she recalls the tragic day she gave birth to her first child, who was stillborn. Later, when she wakes up, Daniel calms her down and tells her that the baby is okay. Dr. Meadows then reveals to the Rivers that even though Julie suffered a partial placental abruption from the fall, she and the baby are both fine. However, as a precautionary measure, he places her on mandatory bed rest for the remainder of her pregnancy, restricting her from driving, lifting heavy objects, and engaging in physical activities. Before her discharge, the doctor advises her on preventing preterm labor. She is instructed to stay in bed 24 hours a day, with brief trips to the bathroom, and a 10-minute bath permitted every 3 days. The most crucial rule is to avoid stress, as it not only endangers the child's health, but could also trigger the mental dissociation she experienced after her last pregnancy. Upon returning home, Daniel tries to lift Julie's spirits by showcasing the helpful arrangements he has made in the bedroom. He presents a tool for grabbing things, an iPad, her laptop, and a pair of two-way walkie-talkies, enabling them to communicate seamlessly throughout the house. On her first day of bed rest, with 55 days remaining until the due date, Julie makes an effort to do some work on her laptop. She also spends some time watching TV and utilizes the grabbing tool to play with Lou, making the most of her situation. Now, while using the bathroom, Julie gets startled by the sounds of a baby crying and a child laughing. Upon returning to the bedroom to investigate, she hears thumping sounds, and suddenly, the closet door opens on its own. Intrigued, she moves towards the closet to investigate the source of the sounds, only to find nothing behind it. Later that night, Daniel notices a package in the room, and Julie explains that it's just some stuff she ordered for the house. Daniel becomes angry and scolds her, suspecting that she broke the rules by going downstairs to retrieve it. In response, Julie expresses her irritation with the constraints. However, Daniel apologizes, understanding Julie's frustration. He thanks her for making sacrifices for their family and expresses gratitude to their unborn daughter for her best behavior. That night, a storm arrives, making it difficult for Julie to fall asleep. As she attempts to rest, she hears a thumping sound followed by a clap of thunder. She then notices the closet door creaking again, and feeling uneasy, she gets up and senses someone behind the door. Suddenly, a flash of lightning reveals a child peeking from behind it, and in a panic, she wakes up Daniel, informing him that there is someone in the closet. However, when he checks, he finds no one inside and questions if she is sure she is feeling okay. Julie is now on day 13 of bed rest, with 43 days left until the due date, and we see her sitting by a window, watching TV and cleaning the bracelet she had been given. After a while, she hears a kid laughing and notices a little boy playing out in the snow. She calls out to him and asks where his mother is, but gets shocked when the boy points at her before the window abruptly slams shut, and the boy disappears from there. An alert then comes on the baby monitor, and when she checks it, she gets startled as Lou jumps in front of the camera. Despite this, she keeps checking the nursery and spots the reflection of someone's face in the mirror, which suddenly moves. She frantically dials 911 to report the intruder, and the officer instructs her to close her bedroom door first. Julie gets up and starts moving towards the door, but quickly runs to lock it, seeing the reflection again in the mirror. She then hears footsteps moving towards the door, which abruptly stops. But to her horror, she observes footprints on the ceiling. And just then she gets distracted by the police siren. After a while, Daniel returns home, and Deputy Gates informs him that they haven't located a suspect yet, and mentions Julie's claim of hearing a child in the house. And then he leaves, advising them to call if there's anything else they need. Concerned, Daniel decides to call Dr. Meadows and arranges for someone to be with her. Julie says she doesn't need a babysitter. However, Daniel clarifies that it's not for her, but for their baby. As night falls, Julie struggles to fall asleep, so she takes out the box from before, containing items and toys meant for her stillborn son, Andrew. Memories overwhelm her, and she cries herself to sleep over the loss of her child. However, her sleep is disrupted when she hears some noise and notices Andrew's toy car moving on the ceiling, which suddenly falls. Scared, Julie picks up the toy car, bewildered by how it reached the ceiling. Suddenly, a child appears in front of her, asking if the baby sister can come out to play, and then runs away. Julie starts to suspect that she encountered the ghost of her son Andrew, so she tries to communicate with him through the baby monitor, but gets interrupted by Daniel, who asks if she is all right. And in an attempt to downplay the situation, Julie says she was just trying to FaceTime with a friend. On day 23 of Julie's bed rest, with 33 days left until the baby is due, Daniel has hired a nurse named Delmy Walker to care for Julie while he is at work. During a health exam, Delmy opens up about her own journey, revealing that she and her husband tried but her body wasn't equipped for a baby. She emphasizes the importance of sharing these experiences and notes that, in her view, there is more than one path to motherhood. She considers herself a proud mother of the countless babies she has helped bring into this world. Julie opens up about her own struggles and shares that after Andrew's stillbirth, she continued to see him, experiencing episodes of postpartum psychosis that led to a 6-week stay in a mental hospital. Delmy, understanding the difficulty of bringing a stranger into their home, reassures Julie that she is there for her and that she can trust her. A week passes, and Julie is now on day 29 of bed rest. Delmy assists Julie into the bathtub, and Julie assures her that she can manage from there. Once Delmy leaves the room, Julie, left alone, sees Andrew's reflection in the mirror, who says baby sister coming, and she suddenly experiences pain in her stomach. Dr. Meadows comes to the house to check on Julie and tells her that she was dealing with Braxton Hicks contractions, and her baby is fine, but it's her who he is concerned with. He asks Julie to tell him about the boy she's been seeing. She describes Andrew as 4 or maybe 5, and Meadows asks others to give them a moment for privacy. Once alone, he presents 2 options. The first is to move her to the hospital, allowing her to finish her pregnancy under the supervision of a highly qualified medical staff. However, Julie declines this option. The second option is for her to remain at home, but she must restart her medication. He explains that the medication would have little to no impact on her baby's development. As Meadows leaves the room, Julie overhears him discussing with Daniel the possibility of admitting her to a mental facility if the medication doesn't prove effective. Delmy begins giving Julie her medicine that very night. As the days pass, Julie begins to show signs of reduced stress and seems to be enjoying her time with Delmy. On day 38 of Julie's bed rest, with 18 days left until the baby is due, Julie is engrossed in reading a book when a ball unexpectedly rolls out from under the bed. Assuming it's Lo wanting to play, Julie uses her grabbing tool to push the ball back under the bed. But to her horror, she realizes that Lou is on the other side of the room and the ball rolls out again. Feeling a sense of dread, she uses her compact mirror to check under the bed and gets terrified seeing the child there. And she notices that even Lou can now see the mysterious boy. Later, when Julie calls for Andrew through the baby monitor, she hears a child laughing and observes a rocking horse in the room, moving on its own. On day 46 of Julie's bed rest, while in the bathtub, Julie calls for Andrew, saying his baby sister wants to see him. She then closes her eyes and tries to rest, but gets startled when Andrew's spirit appears in the bathroom. She asks him if he is here to see baby sister, but he warns her that she needs to leave and that she wants baby sister. Confused, Julie asks him who wants baby sister, but he disappears when Delmy asks her if she is done there. Delmy then helps her to get out of the bathtub and tells her that they gotta take care of their baby. This encounter raises suspicions in Julie, and she begins to suspect that Delmy may have nefarious intentions for her and her daughter, and she tells Daniel that she wants her out of this house. Daniel says that woman is the reason he is able to go to work and not endlessly worry about her all day being here by herself. So if he gonna let her go, then he thinks he deserves some kind of explanation. Julie tells him that the boy he has been seeing is not in her head. She explains that she has been hearing him in the nursery through the baby cam, and that he is their son. He is trying to warn them about Delmy, and Andrew is reaching out to protect them. Daniel, struggling to accept this supernatural explanation, asks her to stop and leaves the room in frustration. He heads into the nursery and turns off the baby monitor's camera. Another week passes, and Julie defiantly throws her pill into the toilet, flushing it away. Later, Delmy conducts another health exam, reassuring Julie that the baby is nice and strong. During their conversation, Delmy opens up about her own experiences, revealing that she lost her first child at 18 weeks and never carried any subsequent pregnancies to term. Delmy then shares a story from her childhood about a family that once lived in the area. The couple had 3 kids, and the mother was pregnant with a 4th child, and she lost her unborn daughter in a tragic car accident. Overwhelmed by grief, the mother fell into a deep depression and eventually took her own life. She tells her that a mother's grief is a powerful thing. You either learn to make peace with it, or it eats you alive. She then begins leaving there, but Julie asks for the mother's name, and Delmy responds that it was Melandra Kinsey. Julie glances at the bracelet on her wrist and discovers a charm with the initials I'm K on it, leaving her in shock. She pulls out the deeds to the house and uncovers that a couple with the surname Kinsey previously owned the property, and the wife's name was Melandra. She contacts the local newspaper to inquire about archived articles on Melandra Kinsey's suicide in the late 60s. It is now the last day of Julie's bed rest. She is alone in the bedroom when the door of her room opens on its own. She gets a bit scared by this and grabs her iPad to check the baby camera, but finds no signal. She connects her cell phone to the Roomba and sends it to the nursery to see what's going on there. Julie sees Andrew once again, who hides seeing the camera, but when she says she wants to ask him something important, he comes out. She asks him if Melandra Kinsey is the person who wants her baby, and Andrew runs away after hearing her name, and Julie gets startled seeing him standing with 2 other boys before the camera dies. The door to Julie's room swings open again, and she becomes frightened hearing heavy footsteps approaching. She then gets terrified seeing ghostly hands on her stomach, and her stomach begins hurting, so she calls out for Delmy. Delmy approaches and thinking that Julie is in the early stages of labor, she says she is just going to get her kit and throw on some clothes. Julie requests her not to leave, but Delmy says there is nothing to fear and she will be right back. Julie then gets an email from the Daily Courier with the article she had previously requested. And while reading through the article, she is horrified when she learns that Melandra drowned her 3 sons in the bathtub before taking her own life. She also comes to know that the child is not Andrew, but Melandra's little boy, and the 2 other boys she saw were also Melandra's children. When Delmy returns to the room with Daniel, Julie pleads to be taken to the hospital, expressing her fear that Melandra Kinsey is in the house and wants the baby. Daniel and Delmy attempt to calm her down, with Delmy dismissing Melandra Kinsey as just a story. However, Julie reveals that she found Melandra's name in the change of the title and shows them the bracelet as evidence. As Julie discloses that Melandra killed her 3 kids, Daniel remarks that it was a long time ago, leading Julie to realize that he knew about it. Daniel explains that he wanted her to be happy, and the house brought a smile back to her face after the loss of Andrew. He expresses the difficulty of watching her struggle day in and day out. However, Julie feels betrayed, emphasizing that he didn't believe her when she tried to convey that something was wrong in the house. As they try to calm her down, the cupboard shakes, and its door opens, revealing a reflection. Julie's stomach begins to hurt, intensifying the eerie and distressing atmosphere in the room, and Daniel and Delmy witness the paranormal activity for themselves. As darkness falls, everything seems to calm down momentarily. However, they hear some sounds from the closet. Daniel opens the door, and they are shocked to see a boy sitting there playing with a ball. He turns and says better hide as mommy's coming, and then he climbs the wall. And realizing that his wife was right all along, Daniel tells Delmy to get the wheelchair for Julie, but it is supernaturally thrown to the side. Delmy yells at Melandra to leave Julie alone, but an unseen force yanks her out the window to her death. Julie and Daniel run for their lives, but Melandra refuses to let them leave. Daniel is hit on the head with heavy pipes and is knocked unconscious. And when Julie tries to reach her phone, the door slams shut. Julie screams in frustration, causing her water to break, and just then she hears some noise from the walkie-talkie. She uses it to try and call the police for help, but is yanked into the bathroom. After a while, Julie attempts to get up, but screams in pain as her stomach hurts, and we see Melandra's ghost rounding a corner, heading for the bathroom. Julie is transported back to the moment when she gave birth to stillborn Andrew, reliving the traumatic experience. And this time, she gives birth to her daughter in the tub. Hearing her baby cry, Julie picks her up, but Melandra's ghost appears in the bathroom seconds later, trying to suck her life out of the baby. In a desperate attempt to protect her child, Julie realizes that the floor underneath the tub is made of rotted wood. She shakes the bathtub until the floor caves in, sending the tub crashing down to the first floor, with Julie and the baby inside. While the baby survives, Julie is severely injured, and hearing the baby cry, Daniel rushes to tend to his wife and newborn child. A weakened Julie urges Daniel to take his daughter and flee, and Daniel leaves saying he will come right back. He attempts to break the front doors down, and meanwhile, Melandra enters the hall, refusing to be denied. As Melandra advances on Daniel and the baby, Julie rises up, determined to protect her daughter. Melandra turns towards her and rushes to attack, but Julie puts her into a chokehold, loudly proclaiming, "This is my child," before ordering the ghost to leave. And as she leaves her, Melandra is sucked out and banished to the afterlife. Reveling in her victory, Julie calls out to Daniel, but he does not hear her. Paramedics arrive at the house, and Daniel yells to them for help. Now when he rushes in, Julie sees her own corpse amongst the wreckage of the bathtub, and realizes that she has died. As Julie watches the paramedics frantically attempting to revive her, she breaks down in sorrow. In this emotional moment, the little boy's ghost appears and informs her that he is calling for her. The ghost guides Julie to a room where Andrew is waiting for her in a crib. Overwhelmed with joy, Julie holds Andrew in her arms, finally experiencing the connection with her son that she had been robbed of years ago. As Julie readies herself to enter heaven with her son, she suddenly feels a pull, summoning her back to her physical body. Now, as she walks towards her body, Delmy's spirit appears there, and realizing that her husband and newborn daughter need her, Julie asks Delmy to take care of her son until her time is up. Delmy, understanding Julie's selfless decision, agrees, and Julie bids her son farewell. Julie then watches as Delmy and Andrew ascend to heaven before being revived by the paramedics. A year later, we see Daniel playing with his now 1-year-old daughter and Lou the cat, before Julie enters and joins in on the fun, and the movie ends here. Thanks for facing the frights with us. If you survived this video, drop a like, summon that subscribe button, and brace yourself for more horror. Until next time, stay spooked.